Welcome to the fifth week of this year's In Times Like These recap. Now let's get into this. Starting with Wanda Mitchell, who sorrowfully moves into her new apartment, then is visited by Owen Grant, who convinces her to watch Devontae's televised interview. Not only do they watch the interview, but so do Pacho Torres, his younger sister Nichelle, the Russo family, and Udell Mitchell. Quinlan begins to ask Devontae how he got involved with Elvira Russo as Adaku watches the entire thing to make sure that Quinlan stays in line. Devontae tried to make it seem like Elvira pursued him, but Quinlan asks if it was the other way around since Elvira was 17 back in the day and he was 22. This questioning upsets Adaku, but Quinlan doesn't care and continues to ask Devontae tough questions. When she asks Devontae who he thinks took Elvira's life, he blames it all on Udell Mitchell. Once the interview ends, Adaku approaches Quinlan, scolding her for tearing into Devontae, stating how some of the questions were not approved. Quinlan reminds her boss that she did her job. As for Adaku, she tells Quinlan that she made a huge mistake. Finnegan Burke meets with Harley Drake at Theodosius' palace, asking about her thoughts on Devontae's interview. Harley tells Finnegan that since Devontae is her client, she won't share her thoughts about his comments and tells Finnegan to focus on his own case, asking if he's using her to secure a conviction against Devontae. This causes Finnegan to ask Harley if she'll drop him as a client because of her suspicions. Harley assures Finnegan that she won't drop him as a client, stating that he wouldn't do anything to not be able to be in her presence. She begins to express how Finnegan is trying to flatter her, asking him if he understands how unprofessional that is. When he asks Harley if she doesn't like being flattered, she tells him that it's his flattery with Heidi, which is what ended him up in this situation to begin with. Finnegan tells Harley how that was a bit hurtful. Harley apologizes. When Finnegan reminds Harley that she didn't answer the question, they stare at one another, then start kissing, which leads to them starting their affair. Adaku meets with Devontae at Theodosius' palace. Then he asks her why he was thrown off guard from the interview. When Adaku apologizes, Devontae states how that's not an answer, reminding his business partner that the interview was supposed to shift public opinion onto his side, but it seems like it's only created more controversy. She asks Devontae if he's suggesting that she take Quinlan's life. Devontae tells Adaku how it wouldn't be such a bad idea. Annoyed, Adaku states how that would be a huge risk. Adaku adds how she doesn't like how he's talking to her, as if she doesn't have everything under control. The fact that Devontae lays out is that after the interview, it's clear that Adaku doesn't have everything under control, urging her to have everything under control or they both could lose their empires. When Devontae walks away from Adaku, she says to herself how she won't lose hers, but he might lose his. Quinlan meets with Ben Russo in his office. She informs Ben that her boss is really angry with her for asking Devontae questions that were not approved, expressing how scared she is, informing him how the way that Adaku spoke to her made it feel like she would harm her. Quinlan states that if the diary is finally out in public, then she can be safe, especially when Devontae lied about the details of his affair with Elvira. When Ben believes that Quinlan is overreacting, stating that his testimony and Wanda's testimony should be enough, Quinlan asks Ben if he's really willing to take that risk. Ben tells Quinlan that if she's so scared, then she should go to his dad for protection. Without saying another word, Quinlan walks out, then does as Ben suggests and meets with Gianni. At Mitchell Law, Udell receives a visit from Wanda, asking her husband how he's holding up after the interview. Udell tells Wanda how he's just going on with business as usual and ignoring the media, even though they both know that Devontae lied on national television. Udell tells his wife how they would have known earlier if she had spoken up the very moment she heard about Devontae. Wanda acknowledges her faults, then tells Udell how she's tired of him rubbing that in her face every single chance he gets. She goes on to remind Udell how Devante is the guilty party, stating that it's not like she handed Devante the knife to end Elvira's life. Udell points out that if she would have just told him that Elvira cheated on him with Elvira, then her life could have been spared. Eventually, Wanda screams out that she'll just build a time machine, do what he asked, allow him and Elvira to have their happily ever after and erase the years that they spent together, stating how it's clear that it meant nothing to him after all this time. After Wanda storms out of her husband's office, she cries in Owen's arms at his office. Now on to week 6. After Wanda calms down, she expresses how she feels like her marriage really is over, informing him what just went down at Udell's office. Upon hearing this, Owen offers his sympathies and expresses how it seems like Udell is allowing himself to lose a good wife. This causes Owen to ask Wanda why she would force herself to live in a loveless marriage. Wanda answers that her love for Udell was real, stating that it still is. Owen begins to ask Wanda if she's punishing herself for loving a man who doesn't love her the same way. Wanda admits that it does seem like Udell will never love her as much as he loved Elvira. She goes on to say that she'll have to accept that. Inside of her hotel room, Harley is in shock after hooking up with Finnegan, stating how they can never hook up again since she's Finnegan's lawyer, pointing out that if Terry finds out, then he'll lose his case. As soon as Finnegan promises not to tell, she reminds him how he failed to keep that promise when he was exposed for having an affair with Heidi. He tries to tell Harley that he can learn from his mistakes. Harley tells him that he can start learning by agreeing that this never happened to make sure that it doesn't happen again. Finnegan expresses how he can't forget what happened between them. Angrily, Harley urges him to try, especially since she can't risk anyone else finding out that she slept with the man who tore Gianni and Heidi's marriage apart. She goes on to ask Finnegan to leave. When he agrees to do so, Finnegan tells Harley how he doesn't regret their time together. Isadora Russo meets with Terry Burke at her office in Valley Park Memorial Hospital, informing her how he plans to take over Theodosius' palace. She begins to ask how she could possibly help him with that. He tells her how Devante could use a distraction. Worried, Terry wonders if she's trying to make her bond with a criminal. Isadora reminds Terry that she's just as bad, and forming a bond with Devante Torres is exactly what he wants her to do. Once Terry asks Isadora how she's supposed to form a friendship with Devante Torres, he asks her to create a fake medical record. After hearing what Isadora has planned, she tells him how that could create havoc if Devante or anyone else finds out that she was behind the fake document. Isadora reminds Terry that it would be a greater tragedy if people found out about her part in his grandparents' passing. Reluctantly, she agrees to do what Isadora asks. Showing concern, Gianni asks Quinlan what's wrong. She informs him that she could be in danger after her interview with Devante. This worries Gianni even more, asking Quinlan if Devante threatened her. She informs him that he hasn't, but that Adaku has, filling him in on how she disobeyed Adaku's orders regarding the interview. When Gianni asks Quinlan if she thinks that Adaku is dangerous, Quinlan replies how she isn't sure but knows that she needs protection. He begins to ask Quinlan how he could protect her. Quinlan immediately kisses Gianni, telling him to go public with her and proceed with the divorce. Confused, Gianni wonders if Quinlan only wants him so that he could offer her protection. Quinlan claims that Gianni makes her feel safe. On top of that, she tells Gianni how he has a point and that she does feel a deeper connection to him since they've been together. He promises Quinlan to keep her safe, warning her that Heidi isn't willing to have a divorce. Quinlan asks Gianni if he loves Heidi. Once Gianni claims that he no longer loves Heidi and is in love with Quinlan, they embrace. But why does Quinlan look guilty? At Adaku's office, Quinlan enters and asks Adaku what she wants. Adaku states how she would like to apologize. Confused, Quinlan asks her boss where this is coming from. According to Adaku, she claims that she was out of line and should have congratulated Quinlan for doing her job and pulling in numbers for the interview. Once Quinlan asks Adaku why she needed her questions reviewed in the first place, Gianni enters, requesting that he and his family respond to Devante's interview. Adaku agrees, suggests that Quinlan interview the Russos, but Gianni states how that would be a conflict of interest, then quizzes Quinlan in front of her boss. Adaku is clearly confused and asks the two lovers to leave her office. Quinlan asks Gianni why he did all that in front of her boss. He reminds Quinlan how they were supposed to go public. She informs him how Adaku apologized, but Gianni begins to ask Quinlan if she's certain that Adaku was serious. When Quinlan expresses how she's not certain, Gianni assures Quinlan that she's safe and that as long as they're together, she'll always be safe. Devante is approached by Estor and his son Alan at Theodosius' palace and is asked if he gave Elvira an STD before she passed away, filling Devante in about how a medical record was leaked online. Disgusted, Devante states that he never once had an STD and that the record is fake. Alan pulls out his phone, recording Devante, asking him if he'd still like to lie more when he's recorded. Devante asks Alan to put the phone away, but Alan refuses, angering Devante even more. He demands that the Russos leave the hotel. As Isidore and Alan leave, they have a look of satisfaction on their faces. Harley spots Finnegan in the hotel and attempts to ignore him, but it doesn't work. She tells him that she has nothing to talk about regarding the case, telling him how they don't need to speak about anything else. Finnegan disagrees, expressing how he hasn't stopped thinking about her, explaining that he doesn't want to go separate ways when she's no longer his lawyer. Finnegan goes on about how he's thought a lot about it and states that they can start seeing one another when the case is over, asking Harley if she could at least wait for him. Harley states how she's only annoyed by him and tells Finnegan not to waste his time. Suddenly, Terry shows up. Annoyed, Finnegan asks his wife what she's doing at the hotel. She tells him how she needed to speak with Devante. Harley tells Finnegan how he'll give him time with his wife. Once Terry sees Harley walk off, she asks Finnegan why she gets the feeling that his own lawyer doesn't like him that much. When Finnegan states how Harley likes him more than Terry thinks, she asks him what he means by that. All Finnegan responds with is by saying that he and Harley get along, unlike how they were able to for the majority of their marriage, walking away from Terry. Keith Burke spray paints Max's car, then takes a picture of it where everyone can see. Max gets the notification and isn't too happy. As he sulks, Vanessa Dorval walks up to Max, asking if he should be getting to class. Max tells Vanessa how he didn't think that she would care. Vanessa tells Max how she's not going to just stand and watch him feel sorry for himself when he put Yvette through so much more. Max expresses how he's not surprised that she thinks so low of him. Vanessa states that she wouldn't think so low of him if he just pleads guilty. Annoyed, Max tells Vanessa how he's not pleading guilty for something that he didn't do. She tells Max that he could probably find peace by admitting to his faults and pleading guilty, stating how the court would most likely go easy on him, especially because of the family that he's a part of. Most of all, believing that it could bring him and Yvette peace. Max tells Vanessa how she doesn't care about seeing him at peace, but to see him out of her way. Before Vanessa walks off, she tells Max not to claim that she didn't try to help him. After she walks off, Keith approaches Max, then asks Keith what he wants. Keith wants to know what's wrong with his family, pointing out how Heidi broke up his parents' marriage and how a whole town will realize that they're sharing the road with someone who hurts girls. When Max tells Keith to leave him alone, Keith continues to push Max's buttons. Keith continues to push Max's buttons by expressing how Heidi was clearly a whore and that he wanted to be just like his mom, but no girl in school would give him the time of day, so he had to force it on Yvette. That's when Max rages and grabs Keith, telling Keith that if he's going to prison, then he might as well go to prison for something he did do. Terry approaches Devante, apologizing for the leaked photo. When Devante asks the doctor why she should be sorry, she answers that the hospital's name is included in the fake document and is embarrassed that it has spread all over the internet. promising to get to the bottom of it. Devontae appreciates it, especially when he comes across someone he's unsure will believe in his innocence. Terry claims that everyone is innocent until proven guilty. This allows Devontae to put some of his guard down when it comes to Terry. She thanks him for not holding any anger against the hospital. Devontae states how he shouldn't be angry at the hospital because of the actions of those who are trying to bring him down. Terry assures Devontae that she'll update him on the fake document, stating that the hospital will make a statement very soon. Before Terry leaves, Devontae tells her that she's welcomed at the hotel anytime. Looks like Esador's plan is in full effect. Isabel Torres runs into Esador at the Russo estate. He notices how upset she is. Then Isabel explains that she's upset about recently hearing about Devontae's supposed STD. Not telling his ex that he had any part in that, Esador expresses his sympathies. She states how Devontae held so many secrets from her when she sacrificed so much to stay married to him. He begins to wonder if covering up their one-night stand was the sacrifice she made, instead of telling Esador how she terminated the pregnancy, where she carried his child. She only expresses how she felt guilt over their one-night stand for years, but is only focused on getting Theodosius' palace for her daughters. Esador questions if that means divorcing Devontae. Isabel states that she doesn't want to go through the hassle of a divorce until after Devontae gets convicted, then walks off. Jeremiah Dorval carries a package inside of his HVAC business. As he and Shelley wonder what it is, once Jeremiah opens the box, he notices a noose in the package. This concerns Shelley, but Jeremiah tells Shelley that the person who is harassing them wants them to be scared, urging his wife not to give in. Shelley expresses how she can't help but worry, wondering if the person who is harassing them has their eyes on the kids, going on about how Vanessa and JJ need to know what's going on. Once again, Jeremiah reminds his wife that JJ is in a good place and can't risk him having any setbacks. Shelley wonders if he would rather put JJ and Vanessa in harm's way. He tells his wife how she knows that's the last thing he wants, reminding her how smart their kids are and how they're aware of their surroundings. As soon as Shelley says that, Jeremiah gets a text from the anonymous individual stating how they hope he received his gift and hopes that he enjoyed it. Shelley asks if Jeremiah received another threatening text. After Jeremiah admits that he has, Shelley tells her husband that he needs to figure out a way to stop this before they receive a worse gift. At Russo Jewelers, Alan pops into Esador's office, where Esador introduces his son to the new intern, Vivian Jones. Gianni and Lorenzo enter the office and are introduced to the new intern. When she walks out, she gives the family a look, and once she's gone, Gianni tells his family that he's dating Quinlan Franklin. Lorenzo is not pleased. When Gianni states how he loves Quinlan, his family tells him that he's clearly in a midlife crisis, added with the hurt of Heidi's betrayal, and that his head is all over the place. Gianni claims that he's thinking clearly and tells him how Quinlan is in love with him. Gianni makes it clear that Quinlan isn't a gold digger, and that she's an intelligent woman who wants to make her way. After the family asks how he thinks Heidi really acts, Gianni explains to them how Heidi wouldn't want to embarrass herself by explaining to the public that she was unfaithful first. When Vanessa approaches Max at school explaining how she heard from JJ how he harmed Keeve, Max admits that he did, trying to tell Vanessa how the altercation with Keeve was not his fault. Since Vanessa is not hearing it, Max questions why he's wasting his time. Then Keeve approaches Vanessa. She expresses how sorry she is to hear how Max attacked him. Keeve tells Vanessa how much he appreciates that, but will feel more relieved or safe when Max is in prison. Vanessa walks off and Keeve smirks. Devontae talks with Pacho, who sees that the hospital has released a statement about the fake medical record. Suddenly, Isabel comes storming in, confused to see Pacho. She asks her son what he's doing back at Theodosius' palace. Then Devontae tells his wife how Pacho believes in his innocence, which surprises Isabel, asking Pacho why he didn't say anything. Pacho tells his mother how he didn't want to hurt her feelings. Devontae notices that Isabel didn't show up because she changed her mind, asking why she did show up. Isabel came by to confront him about the STDs. He tells his wife how the document about the STD was false and that the hospital confirmed it. When Isabel asks Devontae who could have created a fake document. He tells Isabel how the Russos did. She questions if he knows that for sure. Devante states how he doesn't have any proof but is certain of it. What Isabel can't believe is that he didn't at least attempt to contact her when news about the STD came out. Devante explains how she wanted to keep her distance and that he never had an STD. He goes on to tell Isabel how she should express her anger at the Russos for troubling her. Before Isabel leaves, she tells Pacho how she'd never turn him against his father, but to warn him to keep in mind what sort of man his father is. As we all know, Pacho hasn't lost sight of that, as he has his sights on taking over Theodosius' palace. Quinlan enters Adaku's office as Adaku wants Quinlan to explain how she got involved with Gianni Russo. When Quinlan explains everything, Adaku asks Quinlan how it would look to the network if everyone finds out that she broke up a marriage. Quinlan tries to explain to Adaku how the marriage was already broken before she came along. When Adaku asks for the details, Quinlan tells her boss how it's not her place to say. Upon hearing this, Adaku asks Quinlan if she sees her relationship with Gianni lasting long term. Quinlan claims that she fell hard for Gianni and Adaku wants to make sure that her employee isn't saying that because of what she can gain from Gianni. Upon hearing this, Quinlan makes it clear to her boss that she wants her hard work to speak for itself. Adaku believes this, encouraging Quinlan not to let this relationship get in the way of her work, especially when Devante's trial will take place in the coming months. Feeling a bit skeptical, Quinlan tells her boss how it sounds like she's trying to see Devante convicted for taking Elvira's life. Adaku still holds on to the fact that everyone is innocent until proven guilty, but tells Quinlan, especially after the release of the leaked medical record, that whatever dirt she can find on Devante, then Quinlan has free reign to expose it. By the looks of it, Adaku wants Devante out of the way. Can't get enough of the crazy world of In Times Like These? Then treat yourself to a binge watch of In Times Like These. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. You're not ready for what's to come, but tune in anyways.